Hello and welcome to the International Wealth Builders Radio Talk Show. I am your host, Michelle Estelle, the Homebuyer Coach, and I am coming to you from KCAA Broadcasting Network on 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. If you've missed any of our previous shows, you can watch us on our TV streaming channel distribution on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, or the Android app. All you have to do is subscribe to the Building Solid Foundations channel. So today I have a show planned for you. We're going to go over a couple segments of diving a little deeper into credit and share some of the things that are happening in the industry, as well as myths, and just give you a better idea of how to obtain a high credit score. So one of the things that's happening is the bureaus are selling consumers information when they do an inquiry for credit for a credit application. A lot of people think that it's the lender selling the information, but it actually is the bureau selling it. And what happens is it triggers a credit trigger, basically, and then that is basically kind of sold to other lending institutions, and then you get a gazillion phone calls for soliciting business. So this has been a real problem, and I don't believe that this should happen. But of course, I'm a consumer as well as a lender, and it has happened to me, and it is extremely annoying. If you put it on top of all of the potential spam calls you get anyway, and then to get a gazillion phone calls to solicit your business can be quite annoying. So one way that we've been trying to combat this is to do soft pull credits. This does not do a credit trigger when we do a soft pull, so it can be helpful in buying a little time before you have to have a tri-merge credit report for a financial application. And you will receive those calls anyway, but not initially. This is basically how we are helping to keep you from getting those phone calls in your initial stage of application. So I wanted to just dive in a little bit more into what makes a great credit score and a little bit about the myths. So by doing the soft pull, we are avoiding that inquiry. But a lot of people have been fearful of having their credit run. And it's warranted, definitely, because if you do have your credit run multiple times, but usually to buy or apply for multiple different things, your score will drop. And the reason that it drops is because this artificial intelligence really has no way of knowing how much credit you're actually going to obtain and your ability to repay it. So if you are adding a lot of credit, then it is going to drop your score, because it is saying right now you're a little bit more of a risk than you were, because you may have extended yourself and you show no payment history yet. So this is generally when you run your credit. Let's say you're going to apply to buy a home, but on top of that, you're going to buy a car and a boat and an RV and open a couple credit cards so that you have them to spend to use on your trip around the world, let's say. So you have more credit lines added, credit availability. You are showing that you're purchasing large ticket items potentially if you were applying for a boat and a motorhome and a mortgage. And there's really no pay history at that level. So that is why your score initially drops, because your score is telling them the risk. And if you've added a bunch of new risks without showing your ability to repay that, you've added a bunch of new accounts without showing your ability to repay that, that could mean that you're at a higher risk because we have no history of your ability to pay that back. So that is why your credit score drops with a certain type of inquiry. But on a mortgage inquiry, multiple inquiries within 30 days only count as one inquiry. And that is specifically so that you're able to check into different things and make solid decisions without having your credit be affected initially. So you can have multiple inquiries for a mortgage within 30 days. But if you have an inquiry into a mortgage and you have an inquiry to buy a car or a boat, then the combination of those two inquiries are not the same as one financial inquiry for a mortgage. So it definitely will affect your credit score initially. Thing about a credit score is it is not a final grade. Your credit score is always moving, and it's based on the use of your credit. So if you pay down a debt, your score changes. But if you charge up a debt, your score also changes. If you add new accounts, your score changes. If you are going to take that trip around the world and you put it on your credit cards, and now you've maxed out a credit card, your credit card's going to change. When you pay that card down, either in increments or a lump sum, then your credit card, your FICO score is going to change. So there's never really a final grade. The ability of keeping your score high is to strictly manage certain things about your credit. And one of the main things is how you repay your debt. That represents about 35%. Paying on time, not having tax liens or judgments or derogatory credit obviously is a high percentage of showing your ability to repay debt. So that represents about 35%. The next thing that is really critical is the next highest amount is 30% of your debt is or 30% of your credit score is based on your accounts owed or your outstanding balances on your accounts. And this is where we say to, or at least I say, to use your credit cards for things that you need and pay them back at a rapid pace so that your balances stay very low. The rule of thumb is about below 30%. But I think if you use your credit card for things you need, such as food and gas, you're spending a small amount in the hundreds probably. And then if you pay that off at $100 a month, you're going to be paying down that debt fairly quickly. And right before you pay it off, you could go grocery shopping and get gas again and do the same thing. So you're always going to be managing a low balance on your card. If you have a new credit card, you might only have a credit line of $300 or $500. So buying gas and groceries on a $300 or $500 limit is going to be a higher balance in relationship to available credit. But if you do just charge small amounts, let's say you only get gas once and then you pay it off, and then you get gas again and you pay it off, you still are going to have a low balance. So that is the idea, is not to max out your credit cards, but to use them and pay them off or pay them down as quickly as possible, and to use them for things that you normally would pay for out of checking, savings, or use cash. Not things that you don't need, that you did not have the cash to pay for. That would be a large ticket item that should be seriously debated and thought of in the budget before you would purchase it. But if you do it responsibly and it takes you longer to pay, that's fine. You'll just know that your credit score could be lower until you get that balance down to under 30%. So the main thing to remember is that your credit score is not a final grade. You don't get to an 800 score and stay there. It's going to be moving. So having an inquiry is the only way that you can apply for credit. And that snapshot in time is just for that application. Your score is going to move the next day, the next day. You're not even going to really understand how much your score dropped for an inquiry if you don't even know where you started. And using credit apps and things are not necessarily the same type of financial credit inquiry that we will do as a lender in order to determine your credit score. So your Credit Karma number might not even be reflective of what that financial credit report number might be. So losing a few points on it with a credit run is extremely temporary. So again, you don't want to run your credit recklessly. You do want to monitor what you're doing and pay attention to what you're doing, and always be managing the way that you use your debt and run your credit. That is very important. The other parts of your credit score are 10%. Two items that are 10% is basically the new credit and the credit mix. So if you have a lot of new accounts on your credit report, or you've opened a lot of new accounts recently, that can also drop your score, but it's only about 10%. And then new credit, and then credit mix. So how much installment credit do you have? How much revolving credit do you have? Student loans, auto loans, and the different types of credit on your credit report also are contributing to the score. And that is at about 10% as well. And then the length of time that you've had credit is 15%. So the length of time you've had credit, it really makes your credit strong, even though it is only 15%. Having credit cards for decades, for years, is going to help your score more than opening a new card within less than 12 months. And for those first few months, it's going to drop your score until you have a payment history. So the key to long credit history is paid on time, low balances, and keeping your accounts open for a long time. One of the myths is closing some of your credit, and that really just shrinks down your credit profile, and also could shrink down the time that you've had credit if you close old cards that you're not using and you only have the new cards that you are using. Debt consolidation can sometimes interfere with that too, because you get a new card and you pay off an old card. And even though you still might keep that and you should never close it, now you've transferred the balance and it's a higher balance and it's a newer card. So that can affect your credit score. So we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and finish up on some credit. And then after that, we're going to talk about generational wealth. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll be right back.